right, so then we'll call the meeting to order. I've got 6:36 on the 10th of March.
36.
And do we still have to announce that it's being brought,
If it's
recorded?
on your agenda, then yes.
Okay, so we're being recorded and also available through Zoom for a future broadcast on the public access and the town YouTube channel. So the first thing we have on the agenda tonight is remarks from the chairman. I do not have anything. Harry, do you have anything?
No, I just want to, if I can, just say thanks to everybody from the town who didn't put a lot of pressure on me for what I was going through. It allowed me to kind of heal and my wife to heal and get back into the swing of things again, so appreciate it.
Glad you're here and up and about. The next thing we have on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and Mike had sent minutes out from our meeting on the 24th.
Yep.
So if everyone's had a chance to review those, we'll take a motion to...
Pen diver. This one.
Seeing as though it's only, well, Harry was at the meeting too.
What's that?
The minutes from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I did look at them, and I roughly looked at them before I left the house, and they seemed okay to me.
Yeah.
But I was sitting at home watching the Zoom video, so I might have missed a few things.
Yeah, we lost the beginning of the Zoom video on that.
So,
Well, I tell
Luckily,
you what,
I had kept
but it
some
looked
notes.
good from where I was.
okay, I know it's a little out of the norm, but Mike wrote them and you might have missed pieces, so I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from 2/24.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? Any amendments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, and there's none opposed, so that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is updates from the town administrator. Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
Oh, just kind of what I started talking about before we opened the meeting, and let's put it officially on the record, just so it's there. You might have saw some exchanges of emails. I sent you an email because I was wondering, I've been talking with Dan Dede, the school business superintendent, about particularly about the parking lots for the schools. And I wanted him to give that to you as quickly as possible so you guys could work on it. And there's a second request, which frankly I don't remember what it was. I think it was some kind of IT request that they want to do.
It was electrical, I think.
Electrical.
Yeah, electrical,
request,
and he said it was, he didn't have the quote in hand, but it was 75,000.
yeah, so he's supposed to provide that for the parking lots of the schools and that electrical quote. I was saying before the meeting that I happened to be at Glenwood School today. And the facilities manager, of course, grabbed me and said, look at this, and brought me outside in the parking lots. And he didn't even know about the parking lots being part of the bond package yet, because it seems to me the communication between the administration and the lower level maintenance guys is not so hot. That's what I kind of got a feeling. Like, do you know what the capital plan says? No. Like, okay. So they even see you guys got the capital plan for them? I don't think the facility guys necessarily see the full capital plan.
I didn't get the capital plan.
That was last year, right? Oh,
He
or
said they met with you, or they sent you a capital plan, a 5-year capial plan recently, didn't they? He
I
told
never
me
got
that.
it.
Not recently.
No.
It was...
Is it included in this?
Wasn't included in the book I gave you, no.
No, I haven't seen
They
anything
told me
to
they were working on a capital plan, they were gonna meet with you guys and go over a capital plan.
Oh, okay, well, they were going to meet with us then, okay.
I thought it was done by now, but I'll have to revisit that with Dan tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I don't have anything.
Yeah,
like
because
that
I was
on
under the
the
impression that
documents.
they sent you that capital plan and they were gonna meet with you on that. So I'll check with Dan to find out what happened to that. But as you guys know, we built a capital plan, right? I took this capital plan and I got all those capital items from my department heads, right? You guys, that's how we build it, we get the department. The same should be true of the school system, right? The principals of the school should be telling the people building the capital plan what their needs are for the school, right?
Right.
The facility manager's telling me today, and I'm saying, well, is it in the plan? Well, I have never seen the plan. Okay, that's a problem, right? My department heads all know what's in the plan because they help me build the plan. So now I gotta talk with Dan and say, Dan, you need to provide, first of all, I thought you guys had it, but now I'm gonna say, Dan, you need to provide it and meet with the board to talk about it. But then, I'm also gonna say, Dan, you need to present it to your facilities guys in each of the schools so they know what's on the plan, right? Because they're the ones that should be updating it and changing it and stuff. The principal doesn't know what the needs are, the parking lots and stuff. I mean, she's a teacher, an educator. She's not really a facilities person, right? So the facilities guy should be ultimately involved in that planning process. So, but anyway, I walked out of the school system, he's showing me, and he didn't even know about what we were talking about with the parking lots. And he showed me the sidewalks. And this is Glenwood School. And you could see the rebar in the sidewalk. There's big chunks of the sidewalk out next to the driveway or the parking lot area. You see big chunks of concrete out. And you could see the rebar going across. I'm like,
Can I
what?
ask you where that was?
That was at Glenwood,
No, but where on Glenwood?
right in the front of the school.
Really?
Right in the front of the school. There's like 4 or 5 different spots.
In the main walkway right in front of the building?
Right in front of the building, yeah.
Because I know there were some issues with ice and rain coming down on the concrete in the past, where certain, like on the side of the Glenwood where they.
Yeah, no, this was dead
And I
front.
thought maybe that's where it cracked.
No,
'Cause we
right,
had
right in
issues.
front, because I walked in and out of the front,
Huh.
and we literally, because you have to get past into the building, right? We literally walked out of the building and walked just a few steps to the front, and right in front of the entrance to town hall was some of those spots. Right in front of the entrance of the school was in those spots. And there was like 5 or 6 of me saying, somebody's gonna get hurt. And I'm going, you're right, somebody's gonna hurt. Why isn't it fixed? And then I kind of don't know, like this way I think the communication between the administration, the school system, and the facilities guys are not so great. But to me, that's the kind of thing you should fix. So my point of it was, at least for your point of view, is when we get their plan and their cost estimate for the driveways, we should ask if it includes the sidewalks. And if you guys get a chance, take a look at the sidewalk and
Yeah, I would hope
see what it
that
is.
if they submit a comprehensive quote, it would specifically be noted that sidewalks were included. or not.
That's I say, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what they're billing or not. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll
I
make
know
a
I
point
was
of looking at
focusing
it.
on the parking
Yeah,
lots.
right.
I walk through there a lot, I'll make a point
Yeah,
of
take a
going to
look.
look at it. yeah.
But I was focusing on the parking lots because I know that this all started when the middle school principal started. I was at this middle school. I shouldn't just go to schools because when I go there, I get clobbered by the facilities guys. The middle school principal though was beating me up over the parking lots, and the facilities manager was beating me up over the parking lot. So I replayed to you the parking lots was important. But then I see the sidewalks there myself and go, okay, it's not
I
just.
gotta ask Ron, I'm familiar with the parking lots in the center of town. I'm familiar with the police and the
Oh, they
fire.
be done too, yeah.
And the town hall, really bad. Is it that bad over there?
Yeah.
Is it
And some of the
really?
schools it's even worse.
No
Particularly, I
kidding.
think, in front of the elementary school on Main
It's,
Street.
it's worse,
Naquan.
yeah.
Okay.
It
It's
is
bad,
worse
yeah.
at Naquan.
Now, is this supposed to include also the road between the schools over here?
I don't think so. I specifically said parking lots,
The
because that was a problem, like the road.
the road that
First of all,
comes
the
in
road
from
would be
Maple Street.
outrageously expensive. If we talk about
Oh,
the
I know.
road, because that's huge money, that's more than $1 million, that's big number.
Oh,
So I
easy.
was talking about parking lots. The same is true of the road going down to Glenwood, right? That's a pretty long road. When I was talking to them, I wasn't talking about that, I'm talking about parking lots.
Well, I didn't see a lot of damage on that road going
Yeah,
down.
actually, that road actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you look at the road going down through the Heights property, there's some work that road could be done. I don't think it's real bad, but it,
I think that road's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not
I
horrible.
walk that
No.
road all the time.
yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't walked up on those sidewalks right at the front of the school.
Take a look,
Yeah.
like I said, you know what's weird, it's cause like, I don't really focus on it when I go to school, I'm going to school for whatever purpose, I don't really look at the sidewalks in the way you would. But the facility manager obviously, when he pointed it out to me, I went, wow, these are bad. Especially see, and you don't usually see the
Usually.
rebar sticking out where you can see it, right?
Usually I notice those things,
Yeah.
having come from a DPW background.
So anyway, let's see, we'll talk to them when we get the quote. So he said in the email, when I responded to you guys today, in the email, I said, the school system, did you guys get the quote from the school system? He responded that, no, not yet, he's gonna have it over the next couple of days. The same is true with Joe. I know Joe's been working on the parking lot estimate for you guys as well. So I'm hoping that you have those estimates for the next couple of days, because we need to get moving on the package and put that final touches on what the package is gonna be.
So-
Then we should meet with Becky, bring Becky in and talk about what we're doing, give her the package of how much, and let her start talking to.
So we're talking about just Rutland's school system parking lots. We're not
Yes.
talking about WHRS.
No, we're only responsible for Rutland, so the
Okay.
3 schools we're talking about.
Okay.
Now, there could be
Oh,
another.
one more question.
Okay.
The school where the admin was,
Jefferson?
Jefferson, were those parking lots ever done?
I don't
I
think
didn't
so.
know what you're talking about. Where's the
So
school?
I
the
didn't know.
admin is?
I didn't think all
No,
the towns bought in on it.
Jefferson, the administration, central administration office for the
I don't
district.
think I've ever been in it, so I don't
Yeah,
think.
you know where Holden Hills Country Club is? It's kind of.
It's down in Holden.
It's just
Yeah,
past
that's
the
not-
country club.
So
and
that's
all that.
not part of our responsibility.
No, but it was because they were billing us for a portion of what the cost
Well,
was
yeah,
to
that's-
fix that.
yeah, that
And
would
I
be a
want to
different
make
issue.
sure if that's what we're
I
talking
don't think,
about.
did that ever pass?
They had to do a drainage upgrade in there
What's that?
too.
Did that pass?
No,
I didn't think it
it
did.
never passed.
That
So
would
I
have
didn't
to
know
be
if it
in
was
the
going to be
I think we-
included
at the time-
in this one was what I wanted
I
to
think
know.
that, in that
Okay.
one, because it's a borrowing up from the school district, because that central administration responsible, all the towns.
Right.
That when they do, you know how they have a minimum, your minimum requirement you have to pay, and then they have one for debt, that's probably where that would be in that debt service. They have like 4 categories, I forget the names of them. I know one is
But
the
that wouldn't-
minimum local requirement, one is debt service,
Transportation, yeah.
transportation.
But
That's
that
the
over-
normal.
that's
Yeah, but that's where that
That's
debt
not
service for
where this
that-
one is. We're not looking to be
No, we're
part
not
of
doing,
this.
because we're only talking about
Okay.
our projects, not
All
district
right.
projects.
Okay.
Because we're responsible, I think, anything over $35,000 for facilities in Rutland, we're responsible for.
Yeah.
So in that respect, the schools is our responsibility. Make sense?
Yep.
So hopefully we'll have those soon, and like I say, once you have those and you look at the rest of the things you might potentially want to put in that package, we're gonna have to come up with a total with whatever estimates you think are reasonable. And then we sit down with Becky and figure out, Becky will, we'll go through it, Becky, tell her what you want, show her the amounts, and then Becky will have to go to our investment advisors and look at potential borrowing packages. And then, once we know what it's gonna cost, we could try to, sell the town on what the cost is gonna be. It's gonna be, would be what we call a debt exclusion, right? So the people would have to vote in a referendum to do a debt exclusion, so it's not part of our Proposition 2.5. And they would vote to say, okay, $2.5 million is part of a debt exclusion to do these projects, okay?
What year is this for, that we're looking for this one? Is this
I think we do it
2023?
right after this year. I think we try to put it in this year.
Okay.
If we can, if not, we can wait
Well,
another year, but to me, I think that the needs are now.
When would it be presented in an election?
I would think you'd have to get ready for town meeting and then for the next election, if it depends if we can
That's
move that
like
fast.
May or something?
That's May, yeah. So, I mean, we're in March, April, can it be done? I think it can be, but again, then you gotta really go out and sell it, you gotta, town meeting, you gotta explain it, you gotta tell the public what it is, so we should do press releases and some things that do it. Hopefully, the Board of Selectmen would support the plan, because you wanna get everybody on board, but,
Well, if it's done right and it's not raising taxes based on some of
well, that should be,
yeah.
Well, it will raise taxes.
well, to
but-
some degree, but maybe not as much, because some old debt's coming
Yeah,
up.
old debt, enough comes off.
So we gotta talk about
and
that.
that was gonna be, I'm not gonna clutter the airways with it, but I was looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, you know what, for what we're doing, maybe 2025.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because that's
something you gotta-
when, nearly 500, 400,000
But
a year
again,
comes off.
sometimes debt can be structured in such a way as the first couple of years you pay only interest, then you pay principal. So that's where the
Right.
debt, how they construct the debt is important. I mean, you might be able to
We
start
can talk to
earlier.
Becky about that.
That's why I mean we gotta
Okay,
think about
I
Becky.
don't wanna clutter the air, okay.
Now, one other issue that's being talked about tonight at the Finance Committee, and I don't know where it's gonna go, or if it's gonna go anywhere. I guess there's about 57 acres of property that was under 61A. And there's some consideration by some people in town to think that the town should stop letting these big pieces of property go away, and then maybe we should consider buying that property. So the Finance Committee is voting tonight to appropriate $2,000 from reserve to an appraisal account, to actually town administrators' other expenses, to pay for that appraisal. That's $2,000. This property could come in over $1 million, or maybe well
What
over.
property is it, or is it multiple lots?
It's on
It's a single lot.
Wachusett Road, and Ridge Road, I think is the other part of it.
Yeah, Ridge is the primary road.
Yeah, Ridge is the primary road, and Wachusett Road. It's a big piece of property. A variety of people have different ideas of what maybe you could do with it. I don't know. A lot of people want conservation land. Some other people think maybe somebody could build a school on. There's all kinds of just tossing the air kind of ideas. But if the town right now, I don't know where it gets money to fund it. I just don't know how we would buy it if we wanted to. But somebody might throw up the idea to you that we should do a debt exclusion on that, too, once we know what the price is. I don't know what's gonna come in, I just want you to know, don't be surprised if that gets popped up as part of your conversation.
Yeah.
And you guys don't
I
have to, you
think-
guys can support it, not support it, but I think at some point,
I think that might have a long road to go yet.
I'm okay, listen, I'm not gonna take a position on that. I just know the Board of
I-
Selectmen right now said, let's look at the appraisal, let's find out what the value is, and they're not taking a position yet either until they know what the value
Okay,
is.
I guess here's a question I have. Why is the town, first off, I go back to the committees that are going to get this property if the town buys it. Who's gonna get it? Shouldn't that committee be responsible for coming up with the money if they want it appraised? Because the individual who's selling it is gonna go out and get his own appraisal for that, and the person buying it is gonna get their own appraisal. So why should we have to spend the money?
So the law requires when 61A property comes, the town has a right of first refusal.
Yeah, okay,
So that's what the law says. The law says that we have to provide, if we want to tell the owner we want to potentially buy the property, we have to submit to them an appraisal within 30 days of the time they send in what's called a letter of intent to convert the property from 61A to something else. They did that yesterday. The finance board approves it tonight. Tomorrow I'm gonna be on the phone with the appraiser saying, you gotta get this appraisal done within 28 days so I can get it on desk. Otherwise, it's a waste of time, okay? So the appraiser's telling us they can get it done within 30 days to do it. Now, even if we give an appraisal, let's just say the appraisal says $900,000. The owner of the property has a right to get their own appraisal. And then there may be an argument about the price. And then what happens is both parties would have to agree to a third appraiser to come up with the value. But the question will become, where will the town get the money? If the town decides it wants to go down this path, where will the town get the money for it?
so it's not something, it may come up before us, but it's not something we're dealing with right now. Okay,
Not
so-
right now.
All
Let's
right,
wait
so-
and see what happens, but it's something that
okay.
might come up. And you guys just gotta say if you would support that or not support that, because it's, in my mind, it's a capital
What
improvement,
kind
right?
of property is it? Would it be good for developing?
Well,
Because the
they wanna
appraisals
put
may
up
go
houses
really.
on it. Well, they
yeah.
wanna put up houses on it. 22 houses, I think, is what they're talking about. And if they can, there's some question of even can they do that, because it will a perk on every one of those properties, we don't know.
Right.
But there's some question about that. So then, that's gonna be part of what the appraisals will look at, because they have to, they're supposed to value the property, as I understand it, I'm not an appraiser, on highest and best use. So the appraiser I talked to said if it was houses, you can put 22 houses up, he did a quick calculation of over $1 million for the
Right.
property.
Yep.
That's just a quick off the cuff kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the appraiser is gonna come back. I think the company that we're using is kind of a pro-conservation kind of appraisal company, so we'll see.
all right,
But I just wanted you to be aware that this is an issue right now. in town.
Okay.
Okay?
good,
All right,
thanks.
great, thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
All right,
How many acres was it?
About 57.
57.
Again, Wachusett Road and Ridge Road.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe
most
it's
of it is-
36 point something acres.
What's that?
36 point something
is-
acres across the two. That's all that's in 61A.
Oh, I thought it was a total of 57 acres.
There may be a total there. All that's in 61A is 36 acres.
Oh, okay. So I don't know, my understanding of it was 57, Pete's probably right, because Conservation Commission would look at that, but I thought
Yeah.
the total is 57, but he's,
this is mostly all very little forested wood.
I
So
don't know anything about the
prime.
property.
Yeah, it's
Pete would
prime.
probably have a better knowledge of the property than me, but.
All
I
right,
can't picture
anything else, Ron?
No, just that we,
it's just force of habit, it's okay, Harry, I got no problem with it.
No, it's just a matter as this develops. I mean, the sad part is you guys are gonna have to work really hard quickly to put together a package if you wanna try doing it for a referendum and
in the
having any
spring,
shot
yeah.
at doing this. So we need to move quick if we're gonna do this. My overall point of view is we can no longer let the buildings in town keep deteriorating. This is ridiculous. All we're doing is we're using the assets that other people that lived in Rutland have used for years. We're using their assets and just letting them die. And that's not right.
I
We
can
should
see
be protecting our own buildings and making sure that they are at least waterproof and have decent roofs and stuff. So I think it's time that we have to take a serious look at it. And it's a tough decision. People in this town don't like paying taxes. They don't like paying debt exclusions.
Ron,
at some
we've been
point you
looking at it since 2008 when I came on the committee, when
Yep.
Joe put the committee together.
At some point, though,
You know?
you gotta decide that you're gonna take care of this stuff. You can't just, if they let it go on, things don't get cheaper. They really don't get cheaper, so. And if you, God forbid, you let water get into the buildings, you'll destroy not only the building, but the whole infrastructure. Right?
Okay.
So anyway, that's all I got. Anything else for me?
Oh, yes.
What?
Let's segue into the overall big picture, and I'm sure there'll be some questions there on, you want a time constraint, you have to go
No, go
over
ahead.
there? Okay, so just to summarize, so the next item on our agenda is kind of multifold. It's to cover both our 5-year capital improvement book that Ron had submitted to us last year, and to kind of combine with that the bond package projects that were submitted or suggested last week. So when we pull all that information together, and what I've done is pull together the items that were submitted to us last year added to it, and not approved, and not recommended or already
Not
funded.
budgeted, right?
Added to it the items from the 5-year plan that were under FY 2023, okay? And then added to that the items that weren't also, that are on the bond package proposal. So in total, what we're looking at is 46 total requests, okay? Now,
Yeah.
of the 46, 12 come from the bond package suggestion, and then the other ones are all a combination between
Just for
what,
23?
22 and 23.
Right, 'cause you
What we
take what
didn't
we
already
did,
do in
right?
22 and what's new on 2023. So there's a significant amount of requests out there. So we got to figure out the best approach to it. You know, I'm open to suggestions. Now, I know because of the time constraint, the bond package items are probably pretty pressing.
Yep.
And the question I had on the bond projects is this: I get, you know, in looking at these, and what I tried to do is, I'm not going to claim that I read this whole.
No, I looked at the end reports to see what the facilities were and the
Right.
budget stuff. That's
So
all.
what I tried to do is look at some of the projects that were on this proposal, and then go into those buildings and, you know, the immediate repair items that were identified for each of the buildings, as compared to the overall list for each of the buildings too. And I'm completely in agreement with you where we have issues that, like in the public safety building where we have water coming into the building, that's an issue that's gonna be cared for, right?
Right.
And you know, there's probably others, but I think that's probably the best example, because we're talking about a building that's in essence deteriorating because we haven't been able to keep water out of it.
Right.
So take items like that and put them to the side, because I'm assuming we're probably all pretty much in agreement that something like that needs to be cared for. But I guess the question I have is, taking those items out of the mix, we have this proposal, this comprehensive, like, study like I've never seen on our buildings ever before.
It's great, isn't it?
It is, it's fantastic. And the question I have is they split it between immediate repair things, and then, you know, the longer term, big ticket, down the road, things that need to be done. So my question is if we're gonna do a bond package, knowing we've gotta carve out the things that have gotta be cared for, like, that involve water damage, why wouldn't we take the recommendation in the report and have that bond package at a minimum include all those immediate need items for each of the buildings? Which is like 500,000.
So it's a very good question. So, first of all, we have to put together a package that people will vote for. So there's a certain amount of money that we can put up for people to vote on, right? So I took the larger projects that are bigger, and I took those projects that basically protect the shell of each of the buildings. That's mostly what I took.
Right.
The smaller dollars and the immediate needs, we did touch some things, like we had put together, I wanna say $50,000 for like fixing water faucets and stuff like that, which we ended up spending a big part on a boiler. But that stuff, the smaller dollar projects, that's the kind of thing that if we have free cash, we can use free cash for. If we got 30,000 this, 25,000 this. Now, we may not be able to do all the ones that Joe's talking about,
Come
but
up
at
to
least we can.
460, I think it
Yeah,
was.
at least those we can
486,
tackle
yeah.
using free cash. Now, a good example is, we don't know what free cash is gonna be, but the good news today was they finally closed on the property of Dunkin' Donuts across the street.
Oh, good.
That finally occurred, so that gave us $240,000 of sale. That should fall into free cash, right? So whatever else we have, let's assume, let's pray a little, and assume that the Heights property gets closed on. That's a whole nother $1 million that could potentially fall into free cash, right?
Yeah.
And that, truthfully, I know you're laughing, but that looks really good right now, like it's gonna happen. Can't swear to it, because nothing happens until the closing, but it looks pretty good.
No, I chuckled because I sat on the RDC for about 10 years.
And nothing happened.
And way back when, nothing happened. Then I've been off for about 15
We're
years.
doing it without you. See,
Nothing's
that's, we
happened.
had to get rid of you, and then once we
I know,
got
see,
rid of
and
you.
nothing happened. So now,
Well, it took
we
15
think we're
years.
starting, so it's
So
like,
I like to.
I
mean,
chuckle because
to
it's
some
been
degree, I like
30
to take
years,
some
so.
credit for that, because, you know, and truthfully, Michael deserves some credit for getting a realtor out there and pushing it some, and Michael got on the table. And then I came in and myself and I gotta give Michael Sullivan credit, he took a lot of crap because nothing happened for years. Well, Michael's been good, and me, Michael, and David George have worked really well together to finally to get, as we put out a request for proposals. I came in when those proposals were kind of out, and we had to make a decision on who to accept. And we had this great proposal from Harbor Homes. When they first made the proposal, it was 88 units. And the property, and I forget what they wanted to pay for it, was 700,000, some kind of number like that. And the more we discussed it, Harbor Homes started saying, we had another part of the property that they were gonna put solar fields on. Remember that was part of that parcel?
Way in the back
Way in the back section. They're gonna put, and that fell apart because all of a sudden solars weren't as popular and getting the credits, and the company withdrew. That opened up that part of that piece that allowed, instead of Harbor Homes to be built on parcel A and parcel C, they could now build it all on parcel A. And we started talking about 142 units, not 88. So when they started talking about, well, we want to put additional units on, I said, well, you can pay additional for the land. Because, and we kind of figured out, to some degree, a price per unit on the land. But we actually had to reduce that because it didn't work. But we ended up getting, I forget if it was $1.6 million or $1.7 million for the property is what the deal is, okay? Now we're gonna have to pay real estate fees and some stuff has gotta come out of there. But basically, we did really well on the purchase, the sale price of the land. So that's gonna be a nice one-shot revenue that will fall into a free cash eventually. And believe me, everybody's gonna be begging for that money once we get some free cash, right? Because that's the way the town is. But in my opinion, a big chunk of that should be used for these capital requests that Joe's talking about, right? We should take out a big chunk, let's say it's $500,000, and bring our buildings back up to speed, along with the bigger capital items. So I'm looking at the smaller items as not a borrowing thing. I'm looking to use free cash for as much as, we may not be able to do all of them. Maybe we only have 250 or 300 grand, but we could do a pretty good chunk for that money of the small items.
The only thing that concerns me, and I understand that, but in looking at, and the best example I can see, based on the list that was submitted here, is community center, the siting. The other thing, one of the things in the immediate...
That's a bond package item, though. That's not a...
It's a bond package item, but my question is if we do the siding before some of the other things that are found on the immediate need list, one of those items is all of the trim around windows. Well, what's the point in doing a siding on the building if all the trim around the windows is
I thought they
rotted?
put the windows in the bond package.
Not the windows, the trim around the windows. There's wood trim around the windows that's not part of a window replacement.
So the answer to that question is, I looked through these and picked out the things that I saw. Joe obviously found something else that should be added to the bond package because it protects the outer structure of the building from water. So I would, if I were you, that would be one of the things I would look at including in the bond package. Because the intention of me putting that together, and I'm no building guy, was to protect the exterior of the buildings and stop water getting in. So he's correct. If you're gonna do the siding and do the windows, you should do the trim as well. So take those numbers, to me, I would say to you, take those numbers and put them in your bond package.
But
Because that's
the reason I use that example is because that's just one example.
Yep.
The way I looked at it, and there was other examples as you go through it, some of those immediate needs, it's almost like this is the foundational stuff that better enables you to do that bigger picture stuff. You do the trim around the windows, and now you're set up to do the siding as a whole.
And
So that's,
again, I kind of set you up with stuff, but I wanted you guys to think about what other things you might want to add and we want to do. What you have to be careful is that total number, however you're going to do it, can only be so high to get people to vote for it.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so whatever you could, in theory, throw that whole $500,000 in. But if now the parking lot turns out to be $1.5 million for the parking lot, and then you have to do the other end, it's going to start getting too high.
it gets really complicated, because if you look at the immediate needs, on every one of those immediate needs,
Right.
crack sealing in the parking lots is one of them.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're gonna do all your parking lots, you're
That
not
takes-
also gonna crack seal.
that
So
takes
you
off
gotta
the immediate
pull
need,
out
right.
the stuff out of the immediate needs that's gonna be covered by the bigger ticket items.
Right.
So it's gonna be a lot of.
But that's where
work.
you guys come in. I mean, listen, I gave you my ideas, but I don't claim to be the expert construction guy. And I talked to Joe about some of the stuff, but that's where if you think something else makes sense in your package or how you want to divide it, by all means, add to it. Again, I just say to you, just be careful that you don't have too much where it won't pass.
Well, my concern is to me, we got this huge study that is a wonderful asset to have. and it's making a recommendation. In my mind, I'm trying to think of the best way to follow as closely as we can the recommendation that's made in the study to make best use of the study. And obviously, it can't be 100%. You got to tweak it to make it work for you. My big concern is if, let's say, you know, we do a $400,000 and it covers a lot of those immediate needs, cuts out the things we don't need to do, like duplication for the parking lot stuff. There's a lot of work there. There's a lot of coordination there, and that's going to mostly fall on Joe Buckley. So how's he going to coordinate? You know, he's going to have a bucket of money of $400,000, but he's going to be working with a contractor to do soffit work. He's going to be working with a contractor.
So that's
to
to
do this
say,
and that.
and Joe doesn't have the staff to do much of that, right?
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
again, that's where the big projects are gonna, most of those big projects will be contracted out. Joe won't be doing the work. He's not gonna put the siding on, he's not gonna do the windows. So that stuff Joe is gonna, you know, contract out to other vendors. A lot of the smaller stuff, maybe Joe can do the work on some of the smaller stuff. But again, you have to look at every individual item and see, you know, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. I really just took it by a dollar amount. The larger the dollar amount, if it was a large dollar amount, put it in the bond package, because I don't have the money to pay for
Who
it.
did that facility study?
This was done by AA Associates, is that what it's called?
Hassett Financial Services.
So,
Okay.
I learned about Todd Hassett. Todd Hassett is one of the principals of this company. Todd Hassett, when I was in Hanson, Massachusetts, was the town accountant. And one of him and his partner's the big facilities management guy. Him and his partner went into their own business, and they were doing facility work. And I got a community compact grant in Hanson, and I had him and his partner do it for Hanson. And you know, you get this thing, and the town doesn't realize how important this is, because it's a whole plan for all your buildings and maintenance. If you don't have it, you can't go anywhere,
Right.
right? So we did it for Hanson. We thought, this is great. I loved it. So
And
when I
I-
went to Southbridge, I did it for the Southbridge town side, and I told the schools about it, and they went, oh my God, we'd love to have that, because they didn't have any plan. So I had Todd come in, they did a plan for all the schools too. Because I liked it in Southbridge, I thought it was real well. I applied for another grant for Rutland and said, let's do a facilities management plan to
But
give you.
they're not a consultant firm who would design projects for bid.
No, they're not engineers, no.
Okay.
No. This is, and those estimates are high-level estimates.
Yeah.
You know, they look at. you know,
Some of the stuff looked pretty thorough when you go through
They
it.
do a nice job, but it's not a perfect estimate. So when you put these in your bond package, maybe you want to throw a little bit more on some of these, because the cost has also went up dramatically.
And there are other
Construction
things,
recently, so.
there are other things, I mean, they mentioned at the community center, the sidewalk and work and stuff. And I thought we had heard that that was eligible for an ADA
They
grant.
actually got somebody to do some of the sidewalks here, so I'm not sure what that means, because the front part of the sidewalk, they fixed up the sidewalk through a different grant, so.
Yeah, well, they
I'm not
got,
sure what's
I think they got a disabilities grant
Yep.
to make that. And there are little bits and pieces in there that may be covered under such.
So I tried to, you know, I was trying to explain to the Board of Selectmen and others about how important this is. It's an extremely important document. And the same thing is true with the pavement management plan and the capital plan, because now you guys have all the tools to make some good decisions now, right? All the tools are here, you got all the information, you guys can make good decisions. And in the past, you guys never got any money, so it didn't matter what your plan was, because there was no money, right? So now, because we're trying to get free cash out of the budget, for instance, last year, $405,000 of free cash was used for the budget. That was disastrous, because now you had no free cash for capital items, you had no money.
Right.
This year, right now, the finance committee has a balanced budget, and it only uses 125 in free cash.
Right.
And I'm trying to work with the finance committee to get that lower, because the least amount of money I can use for free cash for budget purposes, the more I can give you guys for capital items, right?
Right.
Ron, quick question.
That's why anytime they want to use free cash for the budget, you guys should be at the microphone saying you're crazy, that's bad. You shouldn't use one-time revenue to balance your budget. The one-time revenue should be used for one-time capital items.
The American Rescue Funds Act,
Yeah.
the things that are in here that have all been approved by the Board of Selectmen.
So
Are
did I
those-
send you my list? I think I did.
Yeah,
I
are
did.
those items in there?
No, not,
Because
The pavement management plan, I think I could have the Palmagussit Road work, and I don't know what the timing of
yeah,
that
it
was.
I
is.
downloaded all these
So it's
sheets
right here, the
off that
Palmagussit
same
Road.
one.
Palmagussit Road is on this, that we use money for, but it could be in the facility, it'd be pavement management thing, I don't know.
Well, I also see Rutland Town Hall here. And we're doing
Yeah, use for
design for total, inspect, elevator, and I'm wondering if that's in that package.
That's not, the facility, the one you're talking about now is in your facilities management plan, but it's not in the ARPA money.
It's not in this?
It's not in the ARPA money, no, just what's there. You don't
Because
see
I
it
got
there.
3 sheets at the same
Yeah,
time.
so let me
and I
see
was
that
trying
just to refresh my memory.
I'm trying
The
to
ARPA
figure
is
that
right.
out.
So this is the ARPA money.
Yeah,
So we did some things with the ARPA money. One is we let Joe use some of the ARPA money to finish Palmagussit Road. So he's using mostly a bunch of Chapter 90 money, some state tip money, and some ARPA money to do that project, okay? So a lot of, because that's a
Okay,
really
so
multi-million
question
dollar
one,
project.
that's not in there.
That might be in your
Which
pavement
one?
management plan.
pavement management plan.
Might be, it might be, I don't
Right,
know.
because what I'm,
The rest
my
of
thought
Palmagussit
here
Road
is,
is in that.
of everything we want there, if we're putting that item now, we can be taken out of there, because that's not
If it's in
part
your
of it.
pavement management plan, correct.
Okay,
Are you asking if the Palmagussit Road
yeah.
is in here? This is buildings.
No, he's talking about the pavement management.
That's
plan.
just buildings.
This
No,
is
that's
just
just
buildings.
buildings?
This is just
Yeah.
buildings,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
That's just
sorry,
buildings.
okay.
So that's in the, if it's anywhere, it might be in the pavement management plan, so you'll have to
Okay.
look at that. Broadband infrastructure, I don't know that was considered at all. We don't have broadband for, particularly we're talking about the senior center and for the water department. And so the computer systems are terrible. I get the Board of Selectmen to spend $190,000 to put broadband down there. It's also gonna move the hardware,
190?
that's the 190 grand, 929.
Yeah,
They're also gonna do that, there's equipment that's in, I wanna say the town hall annex servers and stuff, which is really bad, because we don't, in order to have servers and computer stuff, you want them in air-conditioned, cool rooms and everything else. We're gonna move, as part of this project, we're gonna move all the equipment to the police department, where they have a backup generator and they have cooling, so we can do that. So that's part of this broadband project, plus it'll improve services at the senior
I mean,
center and there.
you don't have to go through every one. My
No, I
my
just-
ultimate question on it was, is that in that building package? And the
The
answer
answer is
is
no.
no. Because I didn't know.
No, I don't
When we're
think,
looking at build-out, and we're
I
talking
don't think
about
any
a
of these
town.
things.
None of these
none
things
those
are in them.
here.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
because you got COVID supplies, safe turning, the answer is
Okay.
no. Now, one of the projects Joe was considering for ARPA funds probably is in, it might be in your water sewer infrastructure. Because Joe, if you remember, Joe's been talking a lot about we need a second source for water. A second well, so to speak, for water, right? And that might be somewhere in your capital plan, but that probably is gonna come up and be.
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, I know he's been talking about it, I don't know if it's in any of these things. I would imagine it's in your regular capital plan
I don't think so.
for,
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it.
No.
for water. That, well, you know why that's gonna be in the capital plan for the, water sewer enterprise fund? You get, I don't know if he gives you a capital
Yeah,
fund for
there's a
that.
whole separate tab for that.
Yeah,
Right.
but that was where that should be if it is there, and I don't know if it is.
No.
Okay.
But that water project is something Joe wants to do. We might use ARPA funds for that as well. Now,
Facilities repair, purchase.
Okay.
So ARPA was tricky.
No, it's not in here.
ARPA was tricky because originally when ARPA came out, you can only use it for certain pots of things. You could use it for broadband, you could use it for water sewer infrastructure, you could use it for healthcare kinds of things, you could use it for lost revenue. It's very limited.
Can't use it
Think.
for facilities management.
You
though.
can't use it. It said you couldn't use it for facilities management. However, lost revenue, if your town had less revenue as a result of the COVID stuff, you could use it for that. It looks like, and it's not, I'm not done with it yet, but it looks like they changed the law to say the first $10 million of ARPA funds can be used just like you lost revenue. And if that's true, you can buy anything for the first $10 million. Now, we only got like 2 point something million.
Right.
But basically, I think what that's doing, this change, is gonna allow us to spend the money in any way we want, even though we had no lost revenue. Because they're saying, first $10 million is lost revenue, you don't have to account for the lost revenue. So that means we might be able to use it to buy a truck or to do facility management stuff. So we're looking at that now, but I think that that's gonna be a possibility, which I truthfully, in some ways, I don't like. I like the fact we can do other stuff that we need, but it's gonna be like, once that happens, everybody's gonna be looking for that money. It's gonna be like a rampage on who gets the money first or a stampede. So that's something that we're gonna have to look at. And once I figure that out, for sure, we'll do it.
Isn't a lot of this already spoken for? You get up to 1.938 and then there's 2.6 total.
No, the 1.938 is the balance. So what I did is I took the amount, I subtracted each line item, and the
Oh,
balance
okay.
left is
I was
the
going the
1.938.
reverse
Yeah.
way.
This is how much for that project.
Yeah.
That's the net balance. So we still have $1.9 million in money.
I'm looking at this, I'm just amazed we spent $85,000 on COVID-related issues.
Surprised? Well, COVID-related issues, for instance, one
Well,
of
I
those
mean,
things
you
is.
talk about contact
Well,
tracing.
one of the, yeah, contract tracing for a nurse that has to, if you got COVID, the nurse has to call, we have to have a nurse, a paid nurse, not just to talk to you, but talk to anybody you talked to in the last week and has to trace them. So they have to do all that tracing. But another big part of that is, I think it's in there, we took $35,000 out for overtime, right? Well, what happens if a police officer gets COVID? We don't have another police officer to take him at regular time, so now we have to pay time and a half to get a guy to come in and fill his shift. So, and that happens for every department. We had a big run on policemen and firemen that had COVID. So all that overtime that resulted had to be paid for somewhere. It's being paid right here. It's like 35 grand.
Okay. So
that's where-
that
that's
is
the biggest
covered
chunk of
under
it.
the American Rescue Funds Act.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
Doesn't come out of the town budget.
Nope. Not the overtime.
and it's still up in the air where the rest of that's going.
That 1 million is still open for discussion.
Right.
And we, my original plan was that we thought a lot of it was gonna be water sewer kind of infrastructure, because the town has huge needs in water sewer. But now, if it opens it up, I don't know, maybe we could use it to fix a building or do something with some of it. That's something we're gonna have to discuss. I still have to discuss with the board of selectmen.
That would be, using some of that money for water sewer, I think would be a sour taste for many people after what we did
might
in
be.
the last couple of years.
Well, it keeps your water and sewer rates down, is the benefit to that. But when we were limited how we spend it, that was one of the projects that we could do something with, right? Because a lot of these other pots were give bonuses to all town, to essential town workers. Nobody was all that excited about that, right? It was for helping businesses. You could give loans to businesses. Well, we don't have a lot of that here. It was for helping people with low-income housing. Well, we don't have a lot of it. So the pots before were very limited, and the one that was most likely to use for us was water sewer. Now, if we open it up to everything, that changes the game, right?
Yeah.
And now it's a different deal. So we gotta look at that.
I'm confused about some of these acts. So it says municipal and county allocation.
That's just the way it goes. The way they broke down the federal money,
Yeah.
they broke it down and they gave a certain amount of money to counties and a certain amount of money to local government. But in Massachusetts, we don't have counties.
Yeah,
So the county share of government was divided up and given to all the towns.
okay.
So money that would have gone to a county, if we had counties, would have went there. Instead, they divided up by population and gave it to all the towns that would be in that county.
I
Make sense?
got you. All right.
All right, great. I think that pretty much.
Joe, did that
answers
help you
one
with
of
the
my-
answer to your question?
Oh, sure.
Because it is, your question, there's a lot of merit to your question.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
why you gotta
just-
figure out how you wanna package that
Well,
money.
and that's why I'm struggling a little bit in the time frame we have to pick out the right things to include in a bond.
Well, that too, frankly, my decisions were much easier because they were all the big ones.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
So
easier to put together. And remember, the more little things, the more things you get in it, the more it's gonna be hard to explain to the citizens what the hell you're doing.
yeah,
Why are you spending, why do we have to borrow money to, change light bulbs or to do some of these small things? We shouldn't have to borrow money to do that. That's only 10 grand. Because we're borrowing here, so you borrow for things you can't afford in 1 year, right?
I'm just a little confused about how the bonding is done in the life of something like that. If we come up with a list and say it's $2 million, that's not like floating a bond for a new school.
right.
That seems like small.
Well, again, it depends upon how you finance it, how many years you finance it out for, right?
Yeah,
So you
that's
look
what
at all
I'm
your
not.
projects and maybe you want to get a bond for 7 years or 8 years. not
That's
25
why I
years.
think we got to talk to Becky too,
Right,
because I think
right.
certain things can only be borrowed for certain amounts of time.
Right.
Because you can only borrow for something. You can't borrow for something that's beyond, if the life expectancy of whatever we purchase is 5 years, you can't bond for it for 15.
And maybe
That's
a
why I looked
5-year
at-
bond.
Yeah, you
That's
can't
the
bond
reason why-
siding for 50 years.
Yeah, but you can borrow for 30, siding can last 30 years, right? Windows, the things that I picked are those big things that have longer lifespan.
So I guess, as a starting point, for lack of a better idea, and I'm open to better ideas, I think we gotta maybe go through the items between 2022, 2023 and figure out if any of those are gonna go through the process or if we're gonna knock any of those out
Right.
just off the bat.
Right.
Again, you're right though, if it's a small item, it may not be bondable, right? If it's a small item,
Yeah.
it's fixing plumbing is an immediate need, that may not be bondable.
It's not gonna be
That
bondable,
doesn't cut
so
it. No.
You got it, and I think that you're gonna find most of those immediate needs are those kind of
probably
things.
that type of thing, so.
Yep.
But we gotta make sure that if we do something like the siding on the building, and we do agree to bond for it, we've got to integrate in anything related to that should be done before we side the building.
That's what I try. That's why I picked the outside of the buildings.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of them say, "Oh, paint the interior and stuff." And you know what?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if water's coming in the building, it don't help me to paint the interior, right? Put in new ceilings in the building, if water's coming
You know-
through your roof, don't make sense to put in new ceilings, right?
I have one specific item that we've mentioned, the community center boiler. That thing died, didn't
We
it?
just replaced it.
Okay.
We used, remember that 50 grand we put for water, plumbing, carpentry and stuff?
Yeah.
We felt that that was eligible under that 50 grand, so we replaced it.
So that was another
Okay.
question I had, Ron, because
I didn't know if we should have included it.
I saw that article,
Yeah.
and I have a note here to talk through what that 50 grand covered, because like that item, I'm sure it might have covered others that are on our 2022 request
Well, we
list.
looked at a broad approach to that item because, you know, Joe said that's part of the plumbing, heating system, all that, so it qualified. And we had a boiler, we had to replace it because we had to have heat in that building, right?
Yeah,
So we
it was-
used that line, and Joe, I said, Joe, what do you think, does that qualify for the 50 grand? And we came to the conclusion that Joe, again, he knows more about it than me, he felt that under plumbing and those kind of things that could be.
So what, do we have a list that 50 grand is covered?
I don't know what else he's done. You'd
What,
have to
the
ask
list that
Joe.
it was, we thought it was covering.
Well, I don't
There
think we-
wasn't one.
No, it's just.
No.
It was a
stuff
blanket
off,
50,
yeah.
it was a broad
It was off
50
the items and
grand.
the immediate
Okay.
needs and
Yes,
stuff with.
yeah.
You know, because the immediate needs in all different departments.
Then I would agree
plumbing,
that
landscaping,
that
everything.
was appropriate.
It was
then.
broad,
Yeah. 'Cause
Oh,
that
I
was an
think it was
immediate need.
appropriate, but that's an item we could take off our list, because we've already done it. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
you
trying
can
to
take it off
figure
your
out.
list.
I had no idea that, and it's still, with no price tag, it's still listed from last year.
So
We've
you
been
gotta
looking
show
at that in the past.
how much was spent, how much is left, and Joe should use the rest of it for, you know, having some of these plumbing and other things that's going on.
Right,
But I
okay.
mean, me and Joe, when we were putting together your last list for the free cash stuff, we were trying to package stuff, so, okay, we're not gonna say 5 grand for plumbing and stuff at the senior center, 5 grand, we just put together and said, okay, Joe, here's a pile of money you can use for all these little expenses, and then the boiler went, so we kinda took.
I didn't know if that was
chunk
something we're gonna have to vote on right away or something.
of- Yeah, we did it, we were able to do it under that money, but, you know, thank God we had it, cause if we
Lucky.
didn't, we had a big problem.
I think you'd be going back to the bank.
We'd have to go to reserve or some other plan, so we were lucky that money was there.
All right,
Okay.
so you guys both have the list, right?
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah.
Do
Thank
we
you
want
for
to go
sending it.
through these real quick?
All right,
Okay.
I'm all set, you need me for anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Joe and find out, see what that 50 grand has covered so far, and make sure we don't have any overlap between
Yeah.
what we're trying to consider.
Yep, but the
I
big
think
thing
we're good.
clearly, the boiler's new over there, so that can come off the
Okay,
list, okay?
very good.
All right,
right,
guys.
thanks, Ron. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
anything else, don't be afraid to give me a call or stop in the office if you have any questions, okay?
All right,
Okay.
very
All
good.
right, guys, have a great day, good night.
Too.
Hey, Ron, I guess one question
Sure.
before you leave, sorry.
okay.
One of the items, town administrator / town employee vehicle was on the FY 2023.
Okay, so
Keep it
here's-
or no?
So here's the deal. When I came in, I was hoping, I had worked with this Department of Agricultural, and one of the things that it qualified for Southbridge was to use to buy electric car under this grant, and that they gave grants to do this. Since then, and Lyndon was like, well, you said you were gonna get a car. Well, it's the department that Lyndon works for. And Lyndon told me that because of Rutland's size, it doesn't qualify for a car. So that kind of went, oops, my idea of what I thought we might be able to do is gone. I think, my own personal opinion is town administrator should be using a town car. I think that they should be able to use it to do all the things they do. I personally use my own personal truck, which is costing me money when I use gas. I don't ask the town for gas. I don't use a vehicle. Really shouldn't have to use my personal vehicle. I don't care, so I am. But that's why I put it in there. Now, what could be done here, and I think we should consider it, is in the future, instead of when one of these police cars go, and this is what I did in Hanson, one of the police cars, instead of turning it in for a trade, we should take a decent, if the chief has a decent police car, and give it to the town hall, so the town hall could use it for whatever, right? So if the assessor's office has to run, the treasurer's office, somebody has gotta go to a bank or something, they can use the town car for that. So that's what I'm thinking we should do. You know,
Sounds like a more frugal option.
well, it's cheap.
Yeah.
We're gonna be cheap, which just seems to be what we do, but, you know, most towns, they buy decent cars for their
Right.
key staff, right? In theory, if there's an emergency, right, let's say there was a tornado emergency, who's gotta be there and bid that tornado? They're gonna call me, I'm gonna have to come, right? That's why, same thing as DPW, why the DPW has a truck is because if there's an emergency, Joe's gotta come back, so he has a truck.
Yeah.
Town administrator is usually in that category, so most towns have a vehicle for the town administrator. If they don't have one he gets directly, they have a town hall vehicle that he can use. Here, we don't have anything. We don't have any vehicle for any town employee.
Do you know of other small towns around us where the admin does have a car?
Well, a lot of them do, but a lot of them, again,
I'm looking at
some have
Sterling,
cars.
for example.
I haven't gone around
Pete,
that. It's
you
like
know.
even Hanson, where I was, had a town car. But again, the town car was some administrators have them themselves. A lot of mid-sized towns do. But there's also a lot of small towns that have a vehicle that's available to the town administrator but other people. So it's like the whole group of employees can use it for whatever for that day. Do I think that the town administrator needs a brand new vehicle? Nah, not really. If I could have got a grant and got one for free, I would have, But do I think it's
There's
a priority?
no way out there under any of
I don't
this
know
stuff?
anything else that they can get it for a town administrator. Like, there are some times where a fire department can get a free vehicle, emergency thing.
Maybe we should buy one for the.
But there's not, like Southbridge could have
When
got
that's
a.
done, we'll just turn it over.
Well, Southbridge could have got a free car, because of the nature of the size of their town. They could have got a grant for it, but it's just here it's not. And the town
Yeah.
doesn't want to spend money to do it, so it's just not the big deal. So do I care? I don't really, truthfully, I don't care. I just assume would say to the police, because the police chief did offer me a car once, and it was a piece of junk. I don't know about
Yeah.
bothered. You got some good police car that's not bad. You want to give it to us for those, that's fine. But I don't want just some piece of junk because
Right.
you're trading it in. So it's got to be something.
You don't want one that had a dead body in it.
No, I don't want something that.
There might be a good old water van kicking around.
And that could be true too. There's stuff that might be for them. You
I'm
never
gonna trade
know.
that in, huh?
But that's the concept anyway. All right.
Okay.
So I don't care. I mean, I
That was
don't.
it.
If the car falls
Thanks,
off,
Ron.
it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
Although, like I said to the board, it's like when I was hired, it's one of the things that I thought I should look at. But,
So the two items we're missing here are big items, though.
what's that?
The parking lot items.
Yeah, so we'll leave those kind of open for conversation because what I'll do is as we go through the
Hopefully next
list
week we'll
tonight,
have those, yeah.
I'm sure we'll come out with a list. We know Dan Dede's, he's working on it. I'll reach out to Joe and give him the list that we're waiting on information.
Joe's
from
working
him
on it too
Yeah.
for the town. So
Yeah.
it is in process, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
All right, thank you.
everybody.
Good night.
All right, so,
And then,
and that was my inclination anyhow, to maybe not even consider that. It doesn't seem like a huge priority, that a vehicle, so.
Yeah,
You know,
is that
yeah.
listed here?
It is, it's the first row.
Okay. Employee vehicle, 25, yeah.
So the next one is town building parking lots. We gotta hold, wait for Joe on that. Wachusett School District parking lots, we gotta hold on that. Wachusett School District electrical work, I don't really know what that is, but we gotta hold on it till we know more. The next item is the town hall compliant designs, and that's one of the things that Ron has suggested for the bond package. The way that's worded, I maybe should have grabbed it, but it says design for HP compliant. I'm assuming that is to put a comprehensive design together to put the building into compliance.
Right.
As far as accessibility and whatnot.
I mean, is that almost a legally required item that you gotta do
Well,
if we wanna get it to compliance?
yeah, we talked a little bit about this last week.
Yeah?
Because, I mean, the design work is one thing, at least that would allow you to know what would have to go into it.
Right.
But then what that's gonna entail is a whole different thing, because obviously the bathrooms, I can only imagine, would be a part of that. And when you
Sure.
start getting into the bathroom situation in that building, you're talking some serious
There was an
money.
estimate of 4.1 for doing everything correctly there,
That's a
wasn't it?
total renovation.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it almost sounds like if you're gonna put an elevator and everything else, that's what you're looking at almost.
Yeah, I can't imagine, I mean, to me, to say it bluntly, pretty stupid to put an elevator in if the bathrooms
Well, you've seen
that you're
the-
trying to
you've
get
seen-
accessible are
Yeah, you see the
useless.
third floor.
And that's useless too.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a disaster.
So unless you're gonna rehab the third floor, and unless you're gonna rehab the bathrooms, what's the point of an elevator?
Right,
Because
'cause
that's
that's-
what it's gonna serve.
That's at least a $500,000 to refurb the
Yeah.
third floor. At least, so.
So, I think we gotta leave it on for discussion.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna hurt to have that design to know what it would entail, but, so the next item here was dispatch radio upgrade. This was an FY '22 request, and we met with Mike. If
Joe,
you,
I wonder if we should close the door because they can hear through the camera with the speakers there.
oh,
I don't know, I'm just thinking.
yeah.
Not that we don't want to keep it open, but it might be background noise. Nobody can hear.
This is true. I don't know.
Okay.
That dispatch radio upgrade, wasn't that considered a priority though?
It was, but remember, we met with Mike, it was in March, and it was
Yeah,
the end of
yeah.
March,
A year
and
ago.
he needed to coordinate, because anytime you talk dispatch,
Other towns,
you're
yeah.
talking the split between the region. And so not only does Rutland have to buy into it, but the other towns would too. So we decided we were gonna hold off until Mike had the opportunity to speak with the other 4 towns or 5 towns that are involved there. So maybe that's an action to reach out to Mike and see where that stands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that would be Rutland's share right there, I'm assuming. That 300,
No, that's the total.
that's the total.
I
Okay.
believe, if I remember right, that's the total.
That's the total.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll take notes here and we'll get some emails out to the departments that we got questions
Okay.
for, so that's one of them. And we can also invite them in next week. That's our other option here
Yeah.
too. So the next item is the used international dump truck. So that was a #1 priority for Joe in FY '22 that we weren't able to do. So do we want to leave that on our list for consideration?
Well, yeah, it was from last year.
All right, let me just get some clarification from you, Joe. When you say leave on the list, does that mean that once we decide we're gonna leave it on the list, now we're gonna look at what goes into the bond package, or are we looking at it right now?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, you know how we normally go through our rating process?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this as like a first pass.
Gotcha,
Weed out the
okay.
ones we don't even want to go through the process with.
right,
And leave in the ones that we want to go through our process with.
okay.
It's kind of
Yeah,
ways.
I'd leave it
And,
dump.
and these blues are what you're thinking for the bond.
And the blues are the ones that Ron had suggested for the bond.
Right.
Okay,
So we want to leave the dump truck, and the notes we have on the dump truck from when we met with Joe last year is that it would be replacing, it's a 2000 International where the dump body's rusted. He said he got by with an inspection last time, and this was last February of
that's
2020.
the one we saw?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he doesn't really know, at that point, it was questionable if it would
Right.
pass, so I don't know where it stands today.
Okay,
The next item was the brush chipper. This, he identified as his #4 priority in 2022. And currently, we have a 1998 unit that's already been rehabbed. So do we want to keep that on for consideration?
yeah,
Now, the next item is DPW updated plows. Now, last year, this was a #2 priority.
The plow, I'm looking at the
But he
22
got a
list.
plow
I'm
last
sorry.
year.
He did, but the way it's worded is it almost looks like he's trying to do like an annual effort.
Okay.
He wasn't looking for just one plow. He's looking to replace over the course of time, I think, a series of plows. It is the way I interpret it. So I know we got a plow at the November special town meeting. There was a plow, $9,000 was appropriated for a snow plow.
Okay, it didn't go by us.
In November. Yeah.
Right.
It did go by us. Oh, you're right. We didn't have to vote on it
We
because it
didn't
was
vote on it.
nine.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And
But you
this
know
might
what?
be in that same ballpark then, you don't know.
I don't know, with the cost of everything right
Going
now,
up, yeah. Now it's
I'm
20,000.
thinking, yeah, it might be a lot more.
I think he had,
Bought
he
that-
had originally updated plows, 15,000 is the number he had associated with it.
So this one might be under 2, might be under it, of the
So,
10,
yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
But we can ask him about the plows. Joe B. Plow cost. And if this is an annual program. But we'll leave it on for a conversation. The next item was a #5 priority that Joe had in 2022 for the facility repairs. Now, this was another item that I had a question whether any of those DPW facility repairs that Joe was thinking of when he submitted this got
Yeah.
covered by that 50 grand that was appropriated back in November.
Okay, good, right.
But that's why we gotta get a breakdown from him what that 50 grand has been used for to date, and that would answer the question.
Right.
DPW Service van was his number 3 priority in 2022.
That still should be looked at.
Yeah, and that, back then, when we talked to him last February, a year ago, that van wouldn't pass inspection.
Right.
Right.
I don't think we bought one, did we?
No, we never did.
Because we bought a van. I just can't remember who.
I don't think it was one of those though.
I thought we bought a van. Maybe I'm wrong.
You know what? It was for the animal control, I think.
That's what it was.
Animal control,
That's what it
that's
was.
right.
It was. Yeah.
And that was our share.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that one there. The next one is I put it as an FY23 request, but this is one of the ones that Ron suggested for the, it was actually in both. It was in the 5-year request book, and it was also included on the facility study
Right.
bond package suggestions.
You know, one thing I've learned from Joe is the type of ice and snow treatment he's using now, which requires less sanding.
Yeah, that pre-treatment.
Yeah, so I'm
See the
wondering
lanes in the
if
road, yeah.
he still needs that slide-in sander.
Oh, that's the next item.
Oh, is
That's,
that,
yeah, that's coming up. Well, not, isn't.
what am I looking at here?
Oh, you know what? I skipped it, Harry.
Yeah, slide-in.
I was looking at the storage tent, but you're
Okay.
right, I skipped the slide-in sander.
Right,
But I think he does, because they're still sanding.
they are.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think this is to replace, in fact, we can look at it, because I think he wrote.
It's a pre-treatment they do, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's keeping his costs down by doing it, that's for sure. and
I
It seems to be
suppose.
working.
Yeah, this unit's 20-plus years old, is what he's
Oh,
saying,
okay.
and it's failing.
All right,
Yeah.
so definitely on that one. Okay.
Yeah, and then thanks for pointing that out, I skipped that one. The next one is the salt storage tent, and that's the one that appears both in the 5-year request book as well as the.
And
study.
Ron had suggested last week that that might go to free cash
Well,
in the fall.
it might, but I bring it up again. If we're treating with not salt anymore, as much as we're treating with this liquid compound, do we need a salt storage tank?
Well, I think,
They still store in salt, though.
Yeah,
yeah.
but if we don't use it,
no, they do. The liquid, the pre-treatment is just that, it's a pre-treatment. They put it down, so at the beginning of the storm, you know,
You might not get that quick glaze
Right.
before the sanders can get
But once
there.
the snow comes, they're still hitting it hard with sand and salt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I think they've made the roads a little bit safer at the start of a storm by
start.
pre-treating.
Yeah.
But it's not replacing what they're gonna do
and he
later at
also
all.
said that it, you know, that stuff that's down there, if you don't have a heavy rain and you have 2 snowstorms, that stuff could also still be there for the next snowstorm, because it doesn't get washed away.
Well, I'm not
I
sure.
think that's, but anyways, that's.
With
you know,
all the sand and salt that goes on over it afterwards and the
Yeah.
plows and everything, I don't think it stays. No.
Okay.
Even
it's just-
yesterday, you know, we only had, it was kind of a long duration.
3 or
but there
4
wasn't-
inches, but,
But they still ended up having to go out, even though they pre-treated.
Yeah.
and they sanded and
Yeah.
salted and then they plowed.
Exactly, so.
Okay.
So I think we still probably gotta give it some consideration.
Okay.
The next item is also something that was in the facility study. Ron recommended as part of the bond package, the DPW radiant heat and exhaust upgrades to the facility down there.
Okay.
Next one, this is an FY23 request
Yep.
for the DPW Ford 550. Now, this is just because it's the first FY23 request, not part of the bond package, except the sander that we've talked about. I guess this is something I wanted to talk through with you guys. I'm assuming that these departments when this book was put together, the higher priority items were put as FY 2022,
Right.
and then progressively went down.
Right.
So what I'm trying to figure out is if we want to really look at any of the FY 2023 requests, knowing that we have a bunch of FY 2022 requests that we were never able to make to move forward with.
Right.
Because the next several fall into that category. The 550, the street sweeper, the DBW communication radio, They're all FY 2023, when there's a number of FY 2022 that we weren't able to move forward with.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, if we're gonna put it into 2023, then we're not gonna evaluate it this year.
Well,
We'll
this is
evaluate
FY
it.
2023.
That's right.
So we're
Yeah,
a
but
year
if we
behind.
didn't, if we didn't get to 2022 items, they should take priority, you would think.
But, yeah, I would think so, but I guess maybe it begs the question, do we need to reach out to the department heads with that very question?
Yeah.
You know, would you, his kind of the, the challenge we got.
Right.
We can't keep up with the requests. So out of your 2022 and 2023, is there a priority you need us to look at?
Right.
Right.
So maybe that's,
Questions for Joe.
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll leave them on here for now, but I think we're gonna have to maybe ask a few people to come in next week when we meet and see if we can nail down any of this.
Right.
The next one, I think we pretty much gotta do. This is the second half of the Woods House roof, so I have that in yellow. Because when we saw Joe Buckley last week, he was gonna give us more of a detailed breakdown of the cost there. He was kinda estimating, if I heard him correctly, 60 grand.
Yeah, that was that and the parking lots were the two items he was gonna get us.
Right.
Okay. Communication radios, did we already discuss?
Well, I skipped over the FY 2023, figuring we'll leave them until we talk to Joe and figure out if he wants us to focus on his 2022 priorities or how he
Okay.
wants to look at it.
He
But
seemed pretty adamant the last time that communication radios were very important to him. So that's why, for 10 grand, I didn't know if we should even look at that one.
So we'll keep it on here. We'll keep all of those on
See if you
here.
can get a $9,000 quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the other thing there is, it's kind of like there was another radio request. Oh, it was police, but it was in a future year. So the request was for 29 grand. But the radios were 7,700 or something a piece. You know, it's like computers. We've dealt with this before. We've done a big computer purchase throughout the town, but each individual machine's like $1,200. So we've always said, no, we don't need to review it.
Right.
Is the radios the same deal?
That's a good question.
I
mean, if there's a discount in buying in bulk, you know, but if there isn't,
guess in today's day and age, Mike, are radios somewhat obsolete after 5 years when you're talking police and fire?
That's another good point. I didn't even think of that.
You know-
Yeah, the life expectancy of them.
Under the
Radios.
codes, the
I would think you're gonna
electronics,
get
all
5 years out of them.
that. Yeah, but I'm saying,
I would hope
you know,
so.
how everything changes satellite-wise and all that, would the radios change dramatically where it doesn't even fall under the requirement now for the capital improvement for CIPC? Because
Individually.
it may not have a 5-year life. I don't know, that's just, I mean, I see things, you know, at my age now, any change seems like it's lightning. So, I'm looking at these and going, hey, you know?
So, we'll leave it on, and, because it sounds like we have to have a larger conversation with
Yeah.
Joe anyhow, so.
Yep.
All right, so we're down to, unless I've skipped any, we're down to the COA and the community center.
Yeah.
So the next 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, didn't we already appropriate money for the roof on the community center?
I thought we did.
No, what we did was we appropriated $30,000 for a study, or 35 for a study on the community center.
No,
The
we
senior
did.
center.
We did.
Yeah.
You know, we appropriated 90 grand at this November special town meeting for the roof down there.
Yeah.
So we can take
Okay.
that off the list.
All right.
I think the study we looked at down there, wasn't that for like a new,
So the boiler's
Building or
done
something.
and the roof is done, as far as
the
we're
boiler
concerned.
is done and the roof is done. So, what's not done is the request that we had last year for the Council on Aging Pavilion. But Nancy was looking into CARES funding for that
Right.
at that time. That was last March, so I don't know where that stands. We gotta find that out from her. The exterior door, An ADA grant, maybe we can probably take this off the list, because I think an ADA grant was received for the doors as well as the sidewalk.
You know, I think it was because they were complaining about the door didn't set right
Yeah.
because of cement or something.
So I think we
Wait, which one are you saying take off?
The COA exterior door,
Yeah.
FY 2022.
Okay,
I think that one's done.
okay.
The next one was the COA van,
Right.
We talked about that in
And she-
terms of
regionalization.
sharing, regional sharing.
Regionalization,
Right.
those were the notes. I
And
had.
my last, what I heard was, it didn't look didn't look positive from
Okay,
the
so-
other places.
Maybe we can shoot an email to me. I don't know that we need to meet with her on it. If we
No.
just ask her through email what the deal with the van is, if that's still a request.
Sure.
And by the way, we did send a note to all department heads after our meeting 2 weeks ago, and the only response back, it went out through Ron to all
Right, I saw
departments.
that.
Okay. The only response that came back was from Chief Monaco.
Yeah.
And the only item he included had to do with his radios,
The
which is an
radios, yeah.
FY 25 request.
In a
And
police car.
Right, well, he sent us
not-
a,
Yeah, but I don't think we do the police cars anymore, right?
No, I know, but he did,
didn't
Ron
he
sent
send
that
it,
to
what
me.
was it? I'm getting confused, I have it here somewhere. He sent us a quote.
Yeah.
29.
29,000.
Yeah, okay, those
but
portable
we don't-
radios.
But
Right.
that's
but-
FY 25 anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but we don't do those anymore, so,
Okay,
what was it, total 29?
that's the one I was talking about, where it's total of 29, but there were
7,400 bucks a year.
a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
All right, so now we're down to, we'll ask Nancy about the van. The next item is the COA Community Center windows, which is highlighted in blue because that was part of the bond package suggestion. And then the next one under that is the COA Community Center exterior siding replacement.
Right.
Which he also had in the bond. Now, if we do move forward with that, I think we really got to look at other exterior items identified in this
Some of the water leakage at
and
the,
package it together.
Yeah.
water damage at the base of the building and stuff. And
Yeah.
there were a couple of items like that, yeah. And I didn't know if the siding was addressing that, but maybe
I don't
not.
think so. I think the siding, because actually, the quote for the siding in here was 102 grand. And he's
really?
only got 100 listed on the paperwork he gave us last week, so I can't imagine it also includes any of the drainage or site issues that were
Yeah,
identified here. So, I think any of the bond package suggestions, if we move forward with any of them, we gotta really look to make sure that there's nothing related that needs to be done at the same
Yeah.
time.
that might have some then, yeah.
But that said, do we wanna keep it on for consideration?
The windows and siding?
Yeah.
You know, I would say probably no, because more than likely at that cost, it's going into the bond package.
Well, no, that's what it would be.
They're in the bond package.
But we still have to
they're
consider it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Or they're tentatively in the bond package.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sewer and water pumps.
Yeah, so the sewer department, we maybe can take this off, because when we talked with Joe last February, he felt it would probably fall under that $10,000 estimate.
Yeah,
But to
that's,
your point,
I do remember him
maybe it'll
saying
cost
that,
more
yeah.
this year.
Well, you don't know.
So that'll be part of our conversation with Joe, I think.
yeah, I'm wondering if some of the money that he has here, he can use for that, under the American Rescue Funds Act. It means water sewer infrastructure,
Well,
450,000. So,
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm wondering if some of that can be applied there.
yeah.
I'll
I
note
mean-
that so we remember to ask him.
Question.
What's the acronym that American Rescue?
ARFA,
ARFA?
ARFA, yeah.
Yeah, ARFA.
That's one thing Congress has become pretty good at, is naming things.
In ways people can't understand.
Can't understand.
All right, so that same question would apply to the next one, which is the same thing basically on the water side, right?
Yeah,
Hold for Joe.
I'm Glad you're taking notes too, Mike, because,
I'm just adding them right into your spreadsheet.
okay.
Oh.
I'm trying to do the same thing. It's
Yeah.
between the two of us, we might get it right. All right, the next one was a water department 3/4 ton truck with plow. That was an FY '23 request, so it comes into the same conversation whether the 2022
Yeah,
stuff
I
takes
think we
priority
should-
or not.
Yeah, we need to look at that.
All of that stuff is a discussion with Joe, I guess.
The next item is the Memorial Field playground equipment. It was an FY 2022 request.
Drainage. Oh, the playground equipment, I jumped ahead,
Right.
sorry.
And the next one is the Naquag school playing fields and drainage.
That's an issue.
And you got
Is it bad? I haven't been
Naquag.
down there. Is
Oh,
that
you got all three
My nephew's
schools.
playing soccer out there.
Yes,
And
in the
they were
central
just running through mud.
really?
And that was when I thought things were dry, a year ago, you know?
So it's funny, these items,
That low field is really,
all of these things, those 4 items, from the Memorial Field playground equipment down through the Memorial Field drainage, dressing, and parking, none of those appeared in our 5-year book, but they all came to us in a separate
from Joe.
request
Yeah. Yeah.
from Joe, not last year, I think the year before.
Yeah, and that's a good, there's another question. Why weren't those in the long-term?
Yeah, so,
They, some of those things seemed like legitimate concerns. The playground
I
equipment,
have not been to Memorial Field.
the playground equipment up there doesn't look run down. It looks like it's pretty good. I see the kids in there playing all the time.
they did some repairs to it at one
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
I don't know, it's, I guess it's not my
I have
specialty
to
to judge the condition of that stuff, but
I don't know why Memorial Field would require 2.5 times as much as the other ones. Is it bigger than them?
Memorial Field, one whole corner of it is really soggy.
Is it?
I mean, you go around the far corner and the track, you don't even want to walk on it, even in dry weather. That whole back corner is always wet.
Down out by the neighborhood.
No,
When you get into that
no,
corner.
no, they
By the
play the
tree
little,
line on the right?
yeah, like straight back from, towards this, where it starts to go up the hill. It's like the bottom of that hill, all the drainage collects on the corner of the
Oh,
field.
I'm thinking the other end, okay.
Yeah, the other end isn't so bad,
Mhm.
you know?
Well, it can drain off pretty good there because that's where the road comes into the development on the other side.
Well, no, I'm talking about right behind the wood studio.
Yeah, he's
Down
talking
that
Yeah,
slope.
no, that's where I'm talking,
Yeah.
right?
And that gets pretty soggy.
Yeah.
You know, my girlfriend like looked and she walks her dogs around there and everything, and they always get covered with mud. Other people complain about it too. It's not earth shattering. The fields are still usable. The cemetery field, the low field in the back, to me is the soggiest on the wall. I can see wanting to do something with that. You know?
Well, we'll have to have a conversation.
More conversations with Jim.
Yeah.
The swimming pool deck is the next one. That was also an FY 2022 that we didn't do.
Yeah,
And that's got a lot of cracks and breaks in it. I've gone in there and looked at it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I
When
haven't seen
that
it.
first was presented to us, I went in there.
and some of the breaks are pretty good around where the inlet is,
Yeah,
you know, where the pool drains in.
yeah. You know, and I could see those, you know, people running around in there barefoot and stuff. It's a potential issue.
So, well, the swimming pool pump was another item. I don't know if that's already failed and been dealt with, but, you know, back in 2020 is when this first came to us because they expected the pump
Yeah.
would go. I don't know if it's
right.
hung on this long or not.
Right.
So I guess that's another question, whether the pump is still needing replacement or not. The next one,
Sidewalks?
yeah, Rutland Heights to Maine.
But for some reason, I
Well-
thought that there was funding on a state level or something for that.
Now, this was part of the master plan
Yeah,
in which we were going to do the streets there. So if we're going to look at that as part of the master plan, I'm not sure it's relevant right now.
well, it's also a question for Joe because when we talked to him, and it wasn't even last year, it was the year before, he was looking for state funding for it.
It's another one, like when I asked Ron about that last week, he said he didn't want to go to some of these paving issues, and I'd lump sidewalk in with paving issues, because there's gonna be a lot of money coming and we don't
Yeah,
know
the
how
rescue.
much.
Right,
Yeah.
Rescue money, there'll be chapter 90 money,
right.
and a lot of this stuff may get funded that
So I
way.
would suggest that we scratch that from consideration for that very reason.
Yeah,
Because it's
well,
probably gonna be lumped in.
If we don't hear anything within the next season, then we gotta
Yeah.
consider these things again, because
Yeah.
the sidewalks there are tough. Some of them are really bad.
So I'm gonna put a note in here. Hold for infrastructure Fed money.
Another one that's not in, no, it says not in Ron's mind of Buckley seeking state funding. That note right in there.
So I'll add a note there. Next one, exterior light. So the next four
Yeah.
all have to do with the library. All are suggested bond package items and all appear in the facility, some of which also appear in the 5-year book.
Okay,
So there's some overlap there. So I think we should, again, if we do any of those, I think we also got to look to make sure that there's nothing else related in the facility study that should be done at the same time.
right.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
now see, I guess here's the homeowner in me. If we're looking at replacing the rotted siding and trim, and we're gonna do exterior painting, if we're doing a bond package, why would we want to replace it with wood that gets painted? Why not replace it with something else, vinyl siding or something, so it doesn't have to be maintained?
As often.
Because you're gonna spend, between painting and the siding and trim, you're gonna spend at least $128,000 just for that.
Is there also a drainage
So I'm
issue up
thinking
there
of-
too?
That's
Huh?
one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that fourth one under the library is the library site drainage, and they want to tie into the catch basin.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because that was affecting some of the siding, some of the trim or something along the.
now, if all we're replacing is the siding and the trim, and not the actual siding on the side, but like the trim around the air conditioning units and all that stuff, that seems a little high, so I'm trying to, because maybe if we're doing the bond package, do it smart.
Well, that's why I say,
Well, siding and trim, they might be doing the entire building,
I don't know.
that's $100,000.
yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah. It just says replated rotted siding. I don't know if that's pieces or what, you're right, Mike. So-
100,000 sounds more like these.
But if you're gonna spend that kind of money, and then every 5 or 10, you gotta spend another $30,000-$40,000 to have it painted.
Is that the building complete? Really hard for me to find things on the digital copy.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I made my way to the library, but the library itself is probably 60 pages.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I can't even open that here now because I'm not on the internet here.
Yeah, library cut and replacement. What?
You should be able to join ton of guests.
Oh, really? Okay.
Then you're replacing the rotted siding and trim, and now you're replacing the library gutters besides.
Yeah, and
So-
that's the gutters though.
Town of Rutland guests.
The gutters were not. The gutters came from the 5-year plan, not the facility plan, as far as the recommendation. So the gutters weren't. Ron didn't include that in the bond package suggestion. It might be in the study,
Okay.
but the reason it's on our list is because it showed up in the 5-year book under 2023.
Okay, but I'm saying if we're looking at the whole
Do it
exterior,
all.
you know, don't, and really do it right.
That's why I feel maybe we, let's put ourselves in the situation, but we're trying to rush to apply everything in here to a bond package this year.
Right.
Yeah, this is getting ambitious sounding to me to get it ready for May.
Yeah.
Um,
The gutters are, by the way, in here, and the gutters are under the immediate repair costs. But the funny thing is, repair gutters and downspouts.
There's a line item a little further down. It says
For 60 grand.
Yeah,
But this here, then this is the funny part. I'm assuming that's a full replacement.
Right.
But this is saying for repairs, repair gutter and downspouts, which I'm assuming is just spot repairing where we have problems.
why wouldn't
Yeah.
that gutter, I mean, if we're worried about drainage and all these issues, I would think that 60,000 for the gutters would also be a priority for the bond.
Well, I guess what I find a little bit confusing is a lot of times things that showed up in the immediate repairs were stopgap. You know, for example, siding,
Right.
to fix spots in the siding. But then the siding also showed up in the longer term to replace all of the siding.
Right.
But in the case of the gutters in the library,
Yeah,
it shows up in the immediate repair for $1,500 to repair gutters, but a full gutter replacement does not show up in the longer term.
it doesn't,
It
but
does
that's
not.
in here at 60 then, right?
That was part of the 5-year plan.
That was part of the 5-year plan
Not the
that was
facility.
submitted before this was even done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The
So in
library,
your opinion, the gutters weren't bad enough to spend 60 grand within 5 years?
That's what I would
That's
take
the
away from
reading?
it.
kind of?
you know, you look at some of these things and the carpets, I can see why Kerry wants new carpets in here and stuff. But it's not structural to the building, drainage, water damage.
And I was gonna say the same thing, Mike. I was gonna suggest when we get down to that, is we don't even look at the carpets this year, because I
Right.
think the focus needs to be, I agree. You look at the outside structure and integrity, make sure that
Right.
the outside is
When
protecting the
when
inside
bank book
before
is
you
only
fix
so
the
big,
inside.
you gotta look at
Right.
the stuff you have to do. And I don't know, maybe I didn't find the right information, but that 60, I would think the library gutter replacement would be hand in hand with a lot of the siding and the drainage issues and everything else.
Well, see, this is the suggestion I would make based on this. And again, good money went into getting this.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm gonna have to operate on the assumption that it's pretty valid information.
Yeah.
And if they're telling me, which they are, that all the gutters don't need to be replaced, they just need to be fixed here and there, then I don't even want to look at a $60,000 replacement.
Right.
I'll give you
We're
$1,500.
not even sure where that 60 came from then.
And, well,
Right.
but you can also look, if you're gonna do another bond pack 2 or 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road, that's the time to look at the gutters in. Because the gutters don't tie in to anything else in the building. It doesn't, it's not
Yeah.
part of the siding. It's not part of the, the exterior. It's all by itself, so,
The gutters, yeah, I guess.
yeah.
Now, it's funny, the library site drainage, he's got 60 grand on the document he submitted to us, but tie drainage into catch basin and regrade is 80 grand in the study.
Really? That could be,
Not to mention the engineering site work is another 6. So that's 86 grand to the 60 that was submitted. So I don't,
Yeah,
that one.
so we gotta talk about some of the dollar amounts that are shown here. But, I mean, can we agree that we want to strike the full gutter replacement for now?
yeah.
If you think so, if it's not in that facilities plan,
And can we also agree that the library carpet replacement and not that it's not a priority, but just not this year a priority?
we just put that on hold, maybe.
Well, she wants to spend 15,000 per year. So what is she gonna get done for 15?
I don't,
Not, her 55,000. What is she gonna get done? I mean, 3 times 15 is 45. So I don't know why she came up with 55, but maybe it was an increase in carpeting costs over those 3 years. I don't know.
Okay, I just put the carpet, I put on hold for now for other
Yeah,
priorities.
so,
In terms of the gutter replacement, what was the cost in there? Was it like 15 just to, whoops,
1,500
so we would need
to
to
do
consider.
various repairs.
right.
I just deleted that line. I don't have it back. No, I
You
put
can
hold-
do it. Is there an
back arrow
undo?
or something?
this is new to me, this version. I paid for the Apple version and they allowed me to load it on my iPad,
Oh, okay.
you know? No.
These two things here.
Yeah, but this,
One saves it, the other doesn't. If you hit this,
yeah, but I
know, but if you hit this,
I just tried that.
Oh.
It didn't,
in there,
oh,
it should
yeah, it
come
came
right
back. It did come back.
All right.
Microsoft Office on my old
Yeah.
IBM computer.
Yeah, I've never really done well with tablets. I prefer a laptop.
Well-
Day of the week.
I was given this iPad for Christmas, so
Yeah,
I'm
they-
utilizing it.
Yeah, but
And I found out I could use Office on it under the license I already have. For my Mac at home, you know?
Yeah.
all right, so the next item, all right, so let me just kind of summarize and make sure we're on the same page. We're gonna leave the 4 items having to do with the library exterior issues that Ron identified for the bond package on for consideration. We just need to talk more about them.
Right.
We're gonna remove, at least for now, the library carpet replacement from this year's consideration.
Yeah.
We're gonna remove the library gutter replacement for now. Perhaps it will get replaced with some repair work for gutters, but.
I just put hold for repair work instead.
Yeah.
All right, so the next item down that we haven't talked about yet, and this was not in the facility study, it was on the
Large door.
5-year, is a new door into the large meeting space. And what that
Which
is,
is that?
the Blair room.
Over here.
Okay,
Um,
the one we were in last week.
yeah, so that's the room, one of the rooms they used for all like the COVID.
But that doesn't seem like a priority to me
And they want to replace that door?
for a lot of money.
No, they don't want to replace a door. Does it say replace? It's a
So having
new
new door.
It's a new door. An additional door is maybe a better word for another entry exit into that big room. I'm assuming where the walkway is on the side of the building.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
So an outside door,
another exterior entrance.
and that's not in the facility study.
I doubt it, but
Yeah, this is a whole new item to me. That must have been in,
Yeah, library new door in large meeting.
yeah, that, for 25 grand, it's gotta be a new outer door,
I would think
a
so.
walkway and a vestibule or something, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's in the study because I think the study looked at existing structures in the building that need attention, and
Yeah.
it's not there today, so I can't imagine they would have suggested, oh, you need a new door. It doesn't exist.
This doesn't sound like a big priority.
I was gonna suggest we remove it from consideration this year.
I don't think it's a safety issue, is it? I mean, a fire issue or anything like that?
No, because there's already 2 exits.
Yeah.
You can come out the entrance now, but you can also go through the storage room.
Right.
And there's an exit through that way too.
Yeah, so I don't,
So,
maybe they're trying to avoid a lot of traffic coming in the door.
I think it's
and coming
convenience.
through here.
Is this a real priority?
based on everything else
25
we
grand?
have, I'm not thinking
No,
this
I'm
is
not.
big.
No.
Well, that's just the note they put, that's all.
Okay, well, do we want to take that off from this year's?
Yeah.
Okay. Breathing air compressor. So now we're down into the thing that falls into fire.
That was one that I think is mandatory at a certain point in time. If I remember. Fire chief,
Yeah, he came in and he talked about it,
right,
and they have to redo the tanks. They use it to refill the tanks, right?
right. But it is getting to a point of its life extinction
Right.
in terms of what they can do, so.
Yeah, I do remember talking with Seth about that, and it sounded like something that was a priority to him.
Yeah, and I think it was either, he said 2023, which could be the year that it goes out, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I don't know that it specifically goes out. I think he put 2023 based on other items like last year. I think he had.
Well, I got that at home. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should leave it there.
I think we should leave it.
Yeah.
You know, basically the justification he has here is the condition of the compressor is close to end of life. And keep in mind, this was submitted to us last year.
Right.
Yeah,
With new OSHA standard 1911.430, the requirements for the breathing air compressors and filling stations has increased for fire safety. So that's
Okay,
what we got on.
all right.
We'll leave it. Public Safety Center water infiltration repair. So this was one of the ones that did show up in facility study.
Yeah.
Ron suggests that we, and I agree, we put into the bond package request. I mean,
Yeah.
because if we got water coming into the building, that needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
What I don't know, I mean, $210,000 is a lot of money. Public safety. That's hips. I'm not sure how bad the leaks are up there. They're pretty bad.
Well, definitely over by the police. That was coming in pretty heavy there.
So in the immediate, under the public safety, they're saying $1,500 to investigate water infiltration. Longer term. Yeah, it's funny because this is what I think we got to look at some of the numbers that are shown here to make sure we're going to have enough to do what we want to do, because the repair water infiltration, they have quoted at 212 grand, and he's showing 210, so that's close, but they're showing another 22 grand to investigate all the infiltration and to design the repair work. So the 210 is an estimate for the actual work, but that doesn't encompass what's going to be needed to determine what the work has to be.
Right. Right.
So we got to talk about that.
so that would be plus 22.
Mm-hmm.
Additional investigations and design, right?
All right. So I don't know if we need to talk to them about that. I guess that's just us looking at the information we've got, because
But the renovation of the fire station?
yes, I mean, Seth isn't going to be able to speak, I don't think, to.
My question is it costing $1 million to look at the design? Or is it $1 million to do the work?
Oh, you're on the next one. The $1 million is,
Yeah, we're talking about public safety water.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were looking at the other one. Okay.
Yeah, but the other one's an interesting one, isn't it?
So-
We've talked about that a
It's
lot.
still gonna be about over 200,000.
so the million. Okay. So which one do we want to talk about?
Well, it says 210, but we may be looking at 22 more on top of that.
Right, but
Right.
we're gonna discuss that. We're gonna talk
Yeah.
about that. Okay.
So I guess if we agree that it's important enough to try to get within the bond package, we want to make sure the money
Get it right.
is going to cover
Yeah.
everything that needs to be done, not just the work, but the upfront work
Right.
to know what we really need to do for the construction work. So at least right now with some open items. The other thing is the renovation. So I think we should not even consider the next two.
Well, the ladder truck is a couple of years out, based on what Seth said. It wasn't old enough to be considered for a state grant or a federal grant, or whatever he was trying to get for it.
Didn't he say it takes about 2 years to get one?
He did, but then he said, I have now been informed that the truck has to be a certain, whether it's 15 years old or 20 years old before they will consider it for a grant replacement.
Right.
And he's like 2 years short of that right
Right.
now.
Yeah, the one we got is a 99.
Yeah, and he's a couple of years short.
99, he's a couple of years short. Huh? So with it, the thing is 20.
I don't know, but that's what he said to us.
Maybe it's going to be 25. It's going to be an antique.
Yeah, right.
But it
Should have antique
it
plates
didn't.
on it.
No, you can replace it anytime you want if you want to float a bond or something, but to get that big matching grant, you know,
Right.
a 95% grant or whatever it was,
Right,
it
yeah, I
has to
think
be a certain age.
we can look at that, but I mean, we need a lot more stuff on to find out with what things going on with the infrastructure money that's out there.
We were never looking to float that kind of money anyways.
No.
He was looking to get
Grants for that.
Do
Grants.
for assistance for that. So
Yeah,
the renovation, and to answer your question on the renovation work, Harry, that $1 million is to do just the design work.
That's it, $1 million for the
Yeah,
design.
and then they were looking at 8 million for the actual construction work down in FY 2024. So
Keeping the same building, but spending another 8 million on it?
yeah,
I don't understand, okay,
so I don't.
wow,
I
So
think
the
we gotta
last
focus
two-
on
the last
things.
two we want to just put on hold.
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah,
All right, so I think we've at least narrowed our field down. We got to further narrow it down, but the only way we can do that is we're going to ask Joe to come in next week.
And right, we need the questions on a number of things from Joe.
right,
Yeah, so we definitely need Joe. I got to reach out. I'll send an email to Mike Moriarty about the dispatch radios, get around that.
just tell me what, you know, I could reach out
Well-
to if you want.
Well, some of these things that we do have to consider for a long term, but Ron's priority is what do we want to include in the bump?
Right.
And most of those other things we don't.
So I think everyone has an electronic version of this.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Oh, I don't know, you know, I looked, I couldn't find it, I don't know if it went.
I'll
into
try to send it
junk
to you. I
mail or
tried to send
whatever.
it from here last week, Harry, but it was too big. I'll try to send it from home and see if I can have better luck with it.
I just
Okay.
tried to open it here and it wouldn't let me open
Yeah.
it here. I need an internet connection and I
Oh,
just signed in, but I'm not bothering opening it
yeah,
now.
So what I was going to suggest is we've all got this list with the items in blue. Any of the items in blue,
Do
if we
homework.
all put our eyes on them and make sure that there's nothing in the study that should be done in tandem with the items in blue.
right,
And like, for example, what we just ran into with the infiltration work, well, if we're gonna do that, we also gotta do the design work to figure out what the real
Right.
work needs to be. So
right,
we just wanna, and things like at the community center, if we're gonna do all of the outside siding, well, we also gotta do all the trim before we do the siding,
right,
stuff like that.
yeah,
And that way we can all come back and say, okay, if we're comfortable with moving forward with these items in blue, we've also gotta do these other things, because it only makes sense.
right. Sounds good, Joe,
All right.
sounds good.
And then on top of that, if there's anything else in here that isn't even listed,
It could be.
that
It's hard to go through everything in there. There's so much.
But if 3 of us are doing it, we'll all see different
Right.
things, you know?
Right,
I looked at it and I had the same thought you did because that little chart that said priorities was right at the beginning.
But the more I think about it, if you look at the breakdown of those, sure, you
Should
can
they be
get-
in a bond?
number one, should they be in a bond? But
Right.
number two, even if you funded all of them, how do you manage getting them all done? Because it's all small, tedious stuff.
Right.
well, that's what I'm
Take
thinking.
forever to do it all.
Well, I'm looking here, just take the fields, for example. You're gonna do all 3 fields in 1 year and drop everything else,
Probably sum it up.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But that's, the priority right now is blue items.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
or what we want to drop from or add to,
You know, anything else,
make sure those numbers are correct.
in addition to the blue items, I think it's gonna be our normal stuff. You know, we're gonna buy a truck.
right,
And we're going to rate them and we're going to say, these are our priorities based on the ratings.
Yeah. And it's
Yes,
gonna be
yes,
free
yes.
cash.
And
Right.
at some point we start saying, no, 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 because there's no more free cash.
right,
we're gonna probably end up next fall doing like we did this fall.
Oh,
Once we know the free cash, we'll just go down the list and say, we can cover this much.
But it would be really good to have
Because
it
Ron
done
said-
already. You know what I mean? So if
Well, we'll have them all rated. We can do that at a meeting.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And that way we've got that piece of it done. So when the fall comes.
You got
it's the-
400,000, this is where you draw the line,
Yeah.
Right.
assuming we might get something like that. And who knows, maybe the world will be really nice and there'll be a lot of that,
And plus,
more
the stuff
that
we're-
rescue funds that's a whole lot.
He's got almost $2 million of money they haven't spent yet in the rescue funds. Now, I know people are gonna come up with things to spend it, but there's a lot of things here that could maybe be used under that if what Ron said is you can spend it for anything.
Well, if that
You know, that was
happens,
the other
yeah,
thing.
but he said up to a certain amount. But last week he was saying that there are many things that we're trying to do that it's specific, you know, infrastructure maintenance on buildings and stuff isn't covered. You're not supposed to use the money for that.
So we'll see. Yeah.
And you just find ways, I'm sure there's no shortage of ways to spend that money that it would apply. Joe Buckley could, on water and sewer lines, could spend it all,
Yeah.
you know, if that's covered. And I had asked Ron that last week, what about some of the pump station issues and everything? Wouldn't they apply? And he said, we already voted to fund some of those.
Yeah, we borrowed on that.
If you look at the
He said, let's just
water
do
and
that.
sewer treatment plant, if you
Yeah.
look at the water treatment plant, and there is probably a lot of money that could be spent to get it right up to where it should be. We're piecemealing some of that stuff too.
Yeah,
And, you know, in the summertime,
Joe is, those are things,
you can't flush the water enough
right,
to keep the taste away. So we have a
Oh, I know
major
that.
issue there
I know
with
that.
the algae. So, you know, and every time we
That's-
flush, that costs money.
Yeah.
So,
That's,
I mean, we
that's
need
a-
another water source.
That's a different thing altogether, another water source. What can be done with that pond, there's no easy answers to that.
No,
Maintaining that facility, Joe has to do that. He'll get an order from DEP if he
Right.
doesn't,
right.
you know, and then it's gonna get done one way or another.
So maybe some of that money that's left over from ARPA, did I say that right? ARPA?
We know what you mean.
If they can spend it, if they can spend it on water and sewer, it is possible that it could go into other things. We don't know that answer yet.
So are we okay in terms of what we did tonight then? feel
I
pretty good
think
about
so.
that.
I broke your rule and I apologize, Harry. We're past 8 o'clock.
No, I looked at the clock and I said, okay, I'm just gonna go flow here.
So the only other thing I
Wow,
wanted to
8:30.
run by you all, because we've obviously got a lot of work to do in a little amount of time.
1 week.
We have next week scheduled. Should we get another date on the books? Because I'm pretty confident we're gonna need one.
Yeah, if we actually want to do what Ron wants and get this ready for May,
Yeah,
Right.
and it's got to be well in advance of May. I don't know how much, we can put together a list of priorities and we do the homework to make sure the numbers are
Mhm.
right. Because some of them look a little shaky.
And then from there, see, we've got to do it to leave the selectmen enough time to vote on and do everything that
To
needs
do
to be
the
done with
warrants
the
and all
ballot
that
question.
stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
we're not doing all of that stuff. We're just going to get the recommendations.
The items, the price, based on this.
The way Ron was talking, I didn't know if he thought we were going to take the lead on other things too.
Well, I think ideally,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think it's
what we're
necessarily.
looking at is a bond package now, but ideally, we should be really using this long-term, to
Oh.
come up with a greater plan.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
And that's, I think, what he's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're meeting the 17th. Happy St. Pat's Day. Maybe we can grab a beer afterwards.
Hey,
What do we want to put another date on the books?
can we go to the next one? I mean, I don't know if we can wait 3 weeks or 2 weeks after that. That's the problem.
My only problem with the next one, if Dan can be here, great. I'm questionable because I leave from Virginia the following day, but I have someone come in to stay with me that night before we leave.
So that's tough for you.
So it's gonna be a little challenging.
So
for
it would
me.
be the 1st of April then, first week in April.
Either, well, yeah, the
The
31st
31st.
of March would be the next Thursday.
All right, let's want to shoot for the 31st,
Want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
and we'll have to play it by Dan,
Yeah,
but,
well, as long as we've got 3 people here.
And I can do the warrant and submit for the room again. I kind of like it here because we don't have to deal with the key over there. It's a
Well,
little tough
I like it
scheduling
for
over
these
there.
guys, because they don't have to.
Yeah,
come
they don't have to
right
lug
here.
all this
They don't have
stuff.
to
And
lug all that
this-
stuff over.
Ron, if there's other meetings going on, he's already here.
Yeah,
He goes back and forth. I know he prefers it.
I'm sorry, what date were you looking
the
at?
31st.
30,
March 31st.
Thursday, the 31st.
yeah, this room is available.
Okay.
Can you put us into it? Yeah.
Okay,
Done.
great. Done.
It pays to schedule early. You don't run into the congestion.
Great.
All right, and I'll deal with the agenda and posting, Harry.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I like your cover letter. I mean, so I looked at it, I'm going, man, why did I go through all that trouble in putting out the agenda with our logo and all that? You know, just
My theory is always KISS.
simple. That's it. Yeah. All right, good note. Good note. So you know what? I gotta tell you, Mike, when I read the last one, your minutes, I'm thinking, boy, this is really good. Mike's come a long way in the way he writes this stuff. No,
I have these videos to refer to.
okay.
That big long one from the fall.
Yeah.
My mind was so cloudy on that, and my notes weren't precise enough that I couldn't
That
have
was a
done.
quick moving
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, that
All right.
All right.
we couldn't write fast enough.
Is there a motion to?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. We're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Okay, what time we got?
8:27, it looks like.